We are discussing chapter number 7, control and coordination, the questions which have come in board examination. Control and coordination question and answers. Why it is advised to use iodized salt in our diet? So iodine is very important for our body. It stimulates the thyroid gland in order to produce the thyroxine hormone. So deficiency of this hormone will result in the enlargement of thyroid gland, and which can lead to a disease or a symptom, the after effect, which is called as goiter. So that is why the salt generally we take, and government also advises us to take the iodized salt. State how concentration of auxin stimulates the cells to grow longer on the side of the shoot which is away from light. Now when light falls on the side of the shoot, auxin diffuses towards the shady side of the shoot. So this concentration of auxin, it's a hormone, stimulates the cell to grow longer on the side of the shoot which is away from light. So thus the plant appears to bend towards the light. What is synapse or synapse? In a neuron cell, how is an electrical impulse created, and what is the role of synapse in this context? So a synapse is the gap between two neurons. If these are two neurons, the gap between them is a synapse. So here the axon terminal of one neuron is in close proximity to the dendrite of the second neuron. So when nerve impulse reaches the knob-like nerve ending of an axon, a tiny amount of chemical substance is released which is known as synapse. Now this chemical substance is called the neurotransmitter. So at synapse, the electrical signals, they convert into chemicals that can easily cross over the gap and pass on to the next neuron, where it again converts into electrical signals, and this is how in propagative way the information exchange or takes place. What is meant by reflex action? What is reflex action? With the help of label diagram, trace the sequence of events which occur when we touch a hot object. So what happens? This is what is going on. A hand is there and it is touching something which is hot. So stimulus, first of all, let us know what is reflex action. Stimulus, in this example, the stimulus is the contact with the hot pot as the person is touching the hot pot. Now this contact causes a nerve impulse that will travel to the spinal cord via the sensory neurons. So what are these sensory neurons? As we see, they sense something. So neurons which are sensing, they are sensory neurons. So these neurons carry the nerve impulse to the spinal cord on the back of our body. Similar to the interneuron and motor neuron, sensory neuron receive incoming impulses at the dendrites. Now the impulses move away from the cell body along the axon to the synaptic terminal, where the impulse is sent to the next interneuron with the help of neurotransmitter, that is acetylcholine. So this acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter. So there is neurons as well. The interneuron is also known as relay neuron. These neurons are fully contained in the central nervous system. So this interneuron serves as the connection between the sensory neuron and the motor neurons. Then synapse is a very tiny space between the neurons. So when an impulse gets to the end of one neuron and has to be sent down to the next neuron, the synapse acts as a bridge between them. So the signal arrives at one of the neuron which is close to the synapse as an electrical signal. It crosses the synapse as a chemical signal with the help of neurotransmitter known as this acetylcholine, released by the synaptic vesicles at the synaptic terminal. And it continues as an electrical signal into the next neuron. So this is what is happening. Hand is there. This is the receptor. So heat or pain receptor. So receptors are in our skin. Now this is the effector, which is the muscle in our arm, and this is our sensory neuron, which is this is sensory neuron, and inside we have the motor neuron. This is the motor neuron, and this goes to the spinal cord, which is this part of the central nervous system, and then it sends the message to the brain, and we have a relay neuron here. Then the motor neurons does what? This motor neuron, now these neurons send nerve impulses away from the central nervous system to effector organs or muscle fiber in this example. So this causes the muscle fiber to contract, resulting in you snatching away your hand from the hot pot. So what is this is the whole reflex arc. This is whole reflex arc. Now response is, to respond to a stimulus of the reflex arc, the muscle need to contract to pull the hand quickly away from the hot pot, and for this to take place, the impulse travels to the synaptic terminal of the motor neuron, and synaptic vesicles at the synaptic terminal will then release acetylcholine, which will cross the synapse and bind the receptors on the muscle fibers to trigger the muscle contraction, which is known as the response to anything, which is the reflex action. Give an example of plant hormone that promotes its growth where it is synthesized. So plant hormone that promotes growth is auxin, and it is synthesized at the tip of this plant stem. Name the hormone that are released in human males and females when they reach puberty. So testes is male, or the testes in male, they produce hormone which is testosterone, and ovaries in female, they produce hormone called as estrogen. Name a gland associated with brain. So pituitary gland is present in the brain. Which problem is caused due to the deficiency of hormone released by this gland? So pituitary gland present in the brain is responsible for body growth, development of bones and muscles, right? So it can, if the excess is there, it will lead to gigantism. If it is less, it will be dwarfism. Draw the diagram of human brain and label on it the following parts: midbrain and pituitary gland. So this is a diagram of human brain. This is the midbrain, and here we have the pituitary gland. Write one example each of following tropic movements. Positive phototropism. So positive phototropism means the shoots growing towards the light. Negative phototropism, roots growing away from the light towards the ground. Positive geotropism, this positive geotropism, growth of root towards earth due to the pull of the earth. Negative geotropism, shoots growing away from the earth. Hydrotropism, roots growing towards the source of water. And chemotropism, growth of pollen tubes towards the ovules. Name the hormone which is released into the blood when its sugar level rises. Explain the need of chemical communication in multicellular organism, the organ which produces this hormone, and its effect on the blood sugar level. And also mention the digestive enzymes secreted by this organ with one function of each. So glucose is needed by cell for respiration. It is a very important, or it becomes important, that the concentration of glucose in the blood is maintained at a constant level. So insulin is that hormone that is produced by a cell that regulates glucose levels in the blood. So in order for the multicellular organism to perform properly, their cell must talk or communicate. For instance, your muscle must contract when your brain sends a message to contract. Pancreas produces this insulin, and these P cells, which include glucose, or which increase the glucose in blood. So it also produces digestive enzyme, pancreatic amylase. Next is explain the need of chemical communication in multicellular organism. So cell to cell signaling is a critical component of coordinating cellular activities. And through this talk, communication, or sending and receiving messages are carried from signaling cell to the receiving cells, also known as the target cells. So this signaling occurs with protein and other types of signaling molecules. And other things which happens in our body due to cell communication, these are growth and development, cellular reproduction, tissue repair, and sensing pain. There are so many. State the structural and functional unit of nervous system. Draw its neat label diagram and write two functions. So this is the structural and functional unit of nervous system, which is neuron. So in the neuron, we have, these are the thread-like, or you can say spine-like dendrites. Inside we have a nucleus. Now here is the cell body. This whole is the cell body. Then we have this axon hillock, and then we have this myelin sheath. This is known in this inside orange one is the Schwann cell, and this is the node of Ranvier, and finally this is the axon terminal. So the function of neuron are like this. First is passing information. The passing information takes place by electric impulse, which is inside the neuron, and in form of chemicals at synapse. And the reflex action is spontaneous, involuntary, and automatic response to a stimulus to protect us from the harmful situation. For example, on touching a hot object unknowingly, we instantly withdraw our hand. So this is the reflex action. State the function of gustatory receptor, olfactory receptors. So gustatory receptors, they are sensitive to the taste, and olfactory receptors, these are sensitive to smell. Explain why three directional movements in plant. So stimuli is responsible for the movement of plant parts towards or away from it, and this movement is called as tropic movement. For example, phototropism. This movement of plant towards or away from the light, phototropism. Geotropism, movement of plant parts towards or away from the earth. Hydrotropism, movement of plant parts toward or away from the source of water. So these are three type of you can say three directional movement in plant. How brain and spinal cords are protected in human. Both the human and spinal cords, these are protected by bone. The brain by the bone of the skull, and the spinal cord is protected by a set of thin ring-shaped bones called the vertebrae. This vertebrae. So they are both cushioned by layers of membrane called the meninges, as well as special fluid called the cerebrospinal fluid. And this fluid helps to protect the nerve tissue to keep it healthy and remove waste products. Name the master gland present in the brain. So pituitary gland is present in the brain. This is known as the master gland. List in tabular form three differences between the nervous control and chemical control. So nervous control and chemical control, which is the endocrine system, you can say. So nervous system, these are form of, you can say, neuron cells. The correct collection of neuron cell forms a nervous system, while endocrine system is set of glands. So set of glands, they form endocrine system. The electrochemical pulses are the mean of signal transmission here. Chemicals are, or you can say chemicals like hormones are the means of signal transmission here. Signal transmission is quite fast, but the functions are not prolonged. And in endocrine system, signal transmission is low, but the function is long lasting. In nervous system, the cells are interconnected and the whole system is continuous. While endocrine system, the organs of the whole system are not physically connected, yet those are discrete. The nervous system use the neurons to transmit the signal, while endocrine system use the circulatory system to transmit the signal. Name the part of the brain which control posture and balance of the body. This is cerebellum. Cerebellum is the uh, part, or you can say is the part of the brain which controls the posture and balance of the body. Cerebellum. Name the part of the body where gustatory and olfactory receptors are located. So they are located, first of all, they are located in the brain. So gustatory receptors are located in cerebrum of forebrain. Olfactory receptors are located in olfactory lobe or forebrain. So it is located at cerebrum, gustatory, olfactory at olfactory lobe in forebrain. Smitha's father has been advised by a doctor to reduce his sugar intake. Now name the disease he is suffering from and name the hormone whose deficiency is. So Smitha's father is suffering from diabetes. Deficiency of insulin, it causes diabetes. That is, the increase of sugar level in the blood is diabetes. Identify the gland that secretes it and mention the function of this hormone. Pancreas, it secretes insulin, and this insulin helps in regulating blood sugar. Explain how the time and amount of secretion of this hormone is regulated in human system. So when the sugar level in the blood increases, it is detected by the cells of the pancreas which respond by producing more insulin. As the blood sugar level falls, insulin secretion will be reduced. This is how it is regulated in the human system. State the functions of plant hormones. Name 4 different types of plant hormones. So plant hormones, they help in to coordinate growth, development and responses in environment. So 4 different types of plant hormones are there: auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, ethylene and abscisic acid. So auxin control the tropic, or you can say growth related movement of the plant in response to light, gravity, touch, etc. by increasing the size of the cell. So under the influence of this auxin, the plant stem bends toward unidirectional light, whereas the root bends away from it. Gibberellins stimulate stem elongation and leaf expansion. So its application causes stem elongation in small plant like the cabbage. Spraying gibberellins on a sugarcane plant increases the stem size and hence the crop yield. Cytokinins are produced in region of the plant body where rapid cell division occur, such as root tip, developing shoot buds, young fruits and seeds. So cytokinins, they promote growth by stimulating cell division. They also help in production of new leaves and chloroplast in leaves. Ethylene cause ripening of the fruit. Abscisic acid, what it does, it inhibits, that is slow down the growth of different part of the plant body. It also inhibits the germination of seeds. It increases the tolerance of plant to different kinds of stresses like the temperature changes. So it is also called the stress hormone in plants. So it also causes the drying and falling of older leaves, flowers and fruits. How is brain protected from injury and shock? Brain is covered by 3-layered membrane called the meninges. In between the layers of meninges and brain, cavity fluid, which is named as CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, is filled. So the hard skull covers the meninges. Thus the meninges, CSF and the skull protects our brain for a certain extent. Name 2 parts of hindbrain and state the function of each. So 2 main parts of hindbrains are medulla and cerebellum. The functions are: medulla, the involuntary action like the blood pressure, salivation and vomiting. This is because of the medulla. Cerebellum, the cerebellum it is responsible for precision of voluntary actions and maintaining the posture and balance of the body. Draw the structure of neuron and label cell body and axon. So this is the name the part of neuron where information is acquired, through which information travels as an electrical impulse. So we have already seen and discussed this, so I'll directly go to this nerve cell, neuron. The answer of this is, name the part of neuron where information is acquired is dendrite, and through which, this dendrite here, and through which the information travels as an electrical impulse, and which is the axon. Which plant hormone is present in greater concentration in the area of rapid cell division? So cytokinin is present in greater concentration in the areas of rapid cell division in the case of plant. Give an example of plant growth promoter and plant growth inhibitor. So an example of plant growth promoter is gibberellins. Example of this plant growth inhibitor, promoter is gibberellins, inhibitor is abscisic acid. Which organ secretes a hormone when blood sugar rises in our body? Name the hormone and name one enzyme released by this organ. So pancreas secretes hormone when blood sugar rises in our body, and insulin is the hormone released by this organ, and the name of the enzyme is pancreatic juice. Explain how auxin help in bending of plant stems towards light. In plant shoots, the role of auxin is to cause a positive phototropism. What this means is to grow the plant towards the light. So when light is incident on a plant from one direction, say this is plant, and light is in this direction, it causes the auxin to redistribute towards the shaded side, this side of the plant. So one function of this auxin is to create or cause cell elongation. The redistribution causes the cells on the shaded side, that means this side, to elongate more than that on the side with the light which is shining on it or shining on them. This causes the shoot to bend towards the light. State the objective of the experiment for which experimental setup is shown. The objective of the experiment, there is a figure, and you see that there will be a plant and there is a light coming, right? That is how the figure is. So the objective of the experiment is to show the phototropic movement of the plant. This came in 2011. What causes a tendril to encircle or coil around this object in contact with it? Explain the process involved. So when a tendril comes in contact with any support, the part of the tendril in contact with the object does not grow as rapidly as the part which are away of the tendril, away from the object, away of the tendril which is away from the object. So this causes the tendril to circle around the object and thus just cling to it. Name any 3 endocrine glands in human body and briefly write the functions of each of them. Thyroid gland, adrenal gland, pancreas. So 3 endocrine glands with their functions in human body are like this. Thyroid gland. So this thyroid gland secretes a hormone called thyroxine, which regulates the metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, protein in the body, and so provide the best balance of nutrients and mental ability. Adrenal gland, it secretes 2 hormones, adrenaline and corticoid. Adrenaline or corticoid hormone regulate blood pressure, heartbeat, breathing rate, and carbohydrate metabolism. Pancreas, it secretes 2 hormones, insulin and glucagon. Glucagon and insulin. So insulin hormones lowers the blood glucose level, while the glucagon hormone increases the blood glucose level. Which part of the brain controls involuntary actions? Write the function of any 2 regions of it. So hind brain controls the involuntary actions. Cerebellum controls the coordination of body movement and posture, while medulla oblongata, it regulates the center for swallowing, coughing, sneezing, and vomiting. What is chemotropism? Give an example. Name any two plant hormones and mention their functions. So chemotropism is the movement of a part of a plant in response to some chemical stimuli or stimulus. So it can be positive chemotropism, it can be negative chemotropism. For example, the growth of pollen tube towards a chemical which is produced by ovule during the process of fertilization in a flower. So two plant hormones with their functions are like this. Auxins. Auxins promote cell elongation, root formation, cell division, respiration, and various other physiological processes like the protein synthesis. Gibberellins, they stimulate stem elongation, seed germination, and flowering. State the functions of any three of the structural and functional unit of nervous system. So the structural and functional unit of nervous system, that is the neuron, with their functions are like this. Neuron has cell body. This is stimulus received from the dendrite is changed into impulse in the cyton. Then dendrites, they receive sensation or stimuli or stimulus which may be physical or chemical. An axon, this conducts impulse away from the cell body. What is hydrotropism? What is hydrotropism? Describe an experiment to demonstrate the hydrotropism. So hydrotropism is the directional growth of a plant part in response to water. For instance, roots show hydrotropism as they grow towards water in the soil and are positively hydrotropic. There is an experiment to demonstrate the hydrotropism here. A porous pot, this is a porous pot. This, we take a porous pot, right? This porous pot filled with water is taken and inserted in a tub. This is a tub. This hole is a tub. Tub filled with dry sand. Now there is dry sand and this is a porous pot. Now a freshly germinated pea seedling is sowed in this sand. As water is not available in the sand, the root growing will bend towards the porous pot like this. Porous pot filled with water. The hydrotropic curvature of the root is observed here. See, as it grows towards the water. And this bending of roots show the movement of response towards the water. What are hormones? State one function of each of the following hormones: thyroxine and insulin. So hormones are chemical substances that are responsible for the coordination and control of the activities of living organisms and also their growth. So the term hormone was introduced by Bayliss and Starling. What is the function of thyroxine or thyroxine? This hormone regulates the metabolism of carbohydrates and fats. And what is the function of insulin? This hormone helps in regulating the sugar level in the blood. What is the function of receptors in our body? Think of a situation where receptors do not work properly. What problems are likely to rise? Receptors are present in all parts of our body. For example, the skin, the eye, the nose, the tongue, etc. They are there to detect the signals and then send them to the brain in the form of electrical signals. So if these receptors are damaged, then they will not be able to detect the input which lead to harm for our body in certain dangerous situation. How is the spinal cord protected in the human body? The spinal cord is included or engulfed or enclosed in a bony cage which is called the vertebral column. A potted plant is made to lie horizontally on the ground. Which part of the plant will show positive geotropism, negative geotropism? Root will show positive geotropism while the shoot will show negative geotropism. Mention the function of hindbrain in humans. So hindbrains, it controls respiration, cardiovascular reflexes and gastric secretions. It also modulates the motor commands initiated by the cerebrum. Mention the function of adrenaline hormone. Adrenaline hormone is released into the blood from the adrenal gland during the stimulation of nervous system or seeing any adverse situation of fight or fright, etc. So it will increase the blood pressure, increase the heartbeat rate, increase the breathing rate, and diverts the blood to essential organ including the heart, brain and skeletal muscles by dilating their blood vessels and constricting those less essential organs like the skin and the digestive system. Name two main organs of our central nervous system, CNS. Which one of them plays a major role in sending commands to muscles to act without involving thinking process? Name the phenomena involved. So the two main organs of CNS are brain and spinal cord. Spinal cord plays a major role in sending command to muscle in order to act without involving thinking process. The phenomena is called the reflex action. Name the hormone secreted by human testes, state its function. So testes secretes in male, it's a male part of the body and they secrete testosterone. So this the function of this testosterone is to regulate the male accessory sex organs and secondary sexual characters like the mustaches, the beard, the voice, etc. Name and explain the function of hormones secreted by the pituitary glands in human. So the hormones which is secreted by pituitary gland along with their functions are like this. Growth hormone, it regulates growth and development of bones and muscles. Trophic hormone, it regulates secretion of hormones with other endocrine glands. Prolactin hormone, it regulates the function of mammary glands in females. Vasopressin hormone, it regulates water and electrolyte balance in the body. Oxytocin hormone, it regulates ejection of milk during the lactation period. What is a reflex action? Describe the steps involved in reflex action. So reflex action, it can be defined as unconscious, automatic and involuntary response of effectors, for example the muscles and glands, to stimulus which is monitored through our spinal cord. So mechanism of reflex action, it has certain steps. First, the receptor organ like the skin perceives the stimulus and activates a sensory nerve impulse. Now sensory organ carries message in the form of sensory impulse to the spinal cord. Now the spinal cord acts as a modulator. The neurons of spinal cord transmit the sensory nerve impulse to the motor neuron. The motor never conducts these impulse to the effectors like the leg muscles, which will respond by pulling back the organ away from the harmful stimulus. List the component of reflex arc in correct sequence and state in brief the role of brain in reflex action. So the reflex arc pathway is shown in this flow chart. The reflex arc does not involve brain, it just minimizes the overloading of brain. So how this reflex arc is? See, brain or spinal cord, that is, this is the integration in the central nervous system. So we have efferent neurons, then sensory receptors, and these are stimulus, light, pain, touch, pressure. While we have response, contraction, secretion, relaxation, effector to efferent neuron, and then integration to the CNS. So this is how it goes. Reception, contraction, secretion, relaxation, it goes to effector, then efferent neuron, integration with CNS, then efferent neuron, and then sensory receptor, and then the stimulus. This is how it goes. A young green plant receives sunlight from one direction only. What will happen to its shoots? Shoots will bend towards the light and roots away from the light. Name the plant hormone which help promote cell division, growth of stems and roots. So the cell hormone that will help promote the cell division is cytokinins. Growth of stem is gibberellins. Name the function of thyroxine hormone in our body. So the thyroxine is responsible, or thyroxine hormone is there to regulate the carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism in the body in order to provide the best growth balance. Name two tissues that provide control and coordination in multicellular animals. So the two tissues that provide control and coordination in multicellular animals are nervous and muscular tissues. Which one of the following action on touch is an example of chemical control? Movement on the touch sensitive plant. So the movement on the touch sensitive plant, this is not. Movement on the touch sensitive plant is an example, or it's actually an example of touch of chemical control. What are nastic and curvature movements? Give an example of each. So nastic movement, these are non-directional movements which are neither towards or nor away from the stimulus. Like the dropping of leaves, it doesn't matter, it will come down only. Curvature movements, in this kind of movements, plant organ, they move towards or away from the stimulus. For example, if the source of light is there, the bending of shoot towards the source of light is an example of curvature movement. Write the name and functions of any two parts of human hindbrain. So cerebrum, which controls the coordination of body movement and posture. Medulla oblongata, which regulates the center for swallowing, coughing, sneezing and vomiting. What are plant hormones? Write two important functions of auxin. So plant hormones, it can be defined as chemical substances which are produced naturally in plants, and they are capable of translocation and regulating one or more physical processes where they are present in low concentration. So two important functions of auxin are that it promotes cell elongation, root formation and cell division. Name the two main constituents of CNS, central nervous system, in human beings. So the two main constituents of the CNS are brain and spinal cord. Next is, what is the need of system of control and coordination in human beings? A living being does not live in isolation. A living being has to constantly interact with the external environment and has to respond properly for its survival. For instance, when a hungry lion spots a deer, a lion has to quickly make a move so that it can have its food. On the other hand, the deer needs quickly to make a move to run for its life. The responses which a living being makes in relation to the external stimuli, they are controlled and coordinated by a system, especially in the animals. So control and coordination is very essential in maintaining the stability and steady state between the internal condition of the organism and the external environment. So it's basically a control and coordination of the external environment with the internal environment of the body. So these were question and answer which were asked in boards. We have repeated certain questions because they have come few more times than the others. Thank you so much and all the best. Take care of yourself.